Hello, my fellow readers. Sidetrack 78777 with another fan fiction review. As always, a link to the story will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell for notifications, leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts on the story. And finally, this is my opinion. My opinion is not indicative in the world, so please respect that. So, the story I am reviewing today is Total Drama Cruise by 1602. It is a total drama and crossover story, and this story does a lot of things that are very different from a sort of sort of tropes like, because I'm going to be comparing this story with Total Drama Infinite and Total Drama Everything, both of them just the first stories, because the sequels kind of take place, kind of borrow more from World Tour than anything else. So I do like this story, but I also don't like this story. But let's get on with it with the plot. So the plot is basically just a standard. Chris goes, "Hey, I'm going to get a bunch of people from across universes, put them on a place, and then just go wild." Yeah. Now that all split should start, I tried to record this last night, and I did, and I kind of screwed up because I forgot to. Because for some reason it didn't default back to microphone. Instead of stand on systems down, and didn't pick up my voice at all. I hate that. Okay. Just had a young attack. Okay, so where was I with the story? Well, this story's purpose it doesn't really have it has a more or less kind of a samey plot. It's just basically the whole stereotypical, put someone. Chris gets people, put them on place, have do count challenges. Winner gets a lot of money. There are two side plots. There's this dumb Operation Fat, which is the whole point of this person who turned out to be someone named Clarence. I don't know. I really don't. Basically hires all these villains to go. Not that. First, we're going to look at all these fanfiction authors. Then we're going to kidnap them. It's like, and yes, and then, yes, and then we will take over the fanfiction.net website. That doesn't really make a lot of sense. Of course it does. Because with fanfiction.net under our power, we have unlimited control. Yeah, I'm out. And then there's this other plot that I think it's this chapter. No. Yeah, I can't remember what chapter it is. I think it's this chapter. Either this chapter. No, that's the Wild Thornberry chapter. I think it's this one. Yeah, I think it's this one. That features Ryuko from Kill la Kill, kind of falling role, and then kind of getting involved with this multiverse thing that Jaw has started. I think that's what Master Cat and Mean King adopted in their respective sequels, incorporating the elements from this story into their story. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. However, what I do want to talk about when it comes to the plot for this story is the dynamic between all the contestants. Now, Everything 1 and Infinite 1 are pretty much very samey stories, more or less, with how they adapt the total drama formula. Basically, there's at the campsite. There's usually one or two villains. Everything 1 had Nom Nom and Mandy, and then Infinite 1 had Dio Brando and Cinder Hall. However, this story had about 7 bad guys, and most of them were on one team. And you think, oh, they're gonna work together. No, they didn't work together. They all hated each other's guts, and that actually made a very interesting dynamic where pretty much everyone basically adopted the mindset of like, okay, we got to get an alliance and kick this guy out. Why? This person slighted me and I want him gone. And it also kind of brings about a different tone where instead of like ultimately the previous two stories, they're while they're samey, they kind of go about the same tone as well, like a more laid back sort of thing, because it's like they understand at the end of the day, this is just a competition. We're just gonna have fun, and yeah, we want to win money, but it's not the end of the world. But this one, they kind of like treat it as like the most serious business ever. It's like at the end where Ryuko is like depressed. It's like she killed them. It's like they were just eliminated. She killed them. But they were just eliminated from the comp. Ah, the useless one killed them. You're out of the way. You're out of the way. And it's kind of good, and it's like so over the top. It becomes kind of goofy at times because it's like, oh, we're just doing like the most like over the top hatred of each other because everyone kind of hates each other and wants to gets like enemies and alliances and wants to kick everyone out, and everyone's like, I want you to be my finalist. It's like weirdly goofy in that sense, but I think it actually works. It kind of sets us apart from the other two stories. I probably Endless too. I know Endless kind of has like a sort of scavenger vibe to it, so I'm not, but I haven't really gotten that far in the story yet, so I could be wrong. However, I think this story does, with the tone and the vibe, does differentiate itself from normal stories, like most stories that kind of follow the same formula. That's actually a lot of total drama stories. They kind of follow somewhat samey formulas, so anything that kind of differentiates itself from others is like a thumbs up in my book. And I think the whole dynamic of like half of the content, like about a large chunk of the cast being like villainous, and like the entire cast kind of having this sort of like alliance and elimination but mindsets that kind of makes it like at least makes it stand out in its own unique way. However, it does kind of go down from here. I gotta talk about it. 1 second. I'll be right back. Okay. So I'm back. Okay. I went to get something to drink because this all goes downhill from here. Characters. It's really only. Is it not the entire cast of the story? We have like several other characters that show up throughout the story that kind of join the crew. Starscream actually shows up in like the second episode because he actually never got the chance to actually turn in the paperwork to actually join, so he literally just shows up at the cruise ship and basically it's like, I filled out the paperwork, let me join. And Chris is like, yeah, it's for ratings. Here's another thing that I actually appreciate, because you can tell by like Chris in this story actually makes it seem like the author actually followed the show, because if you look back at Total Drama Everything in Infinite 1, just one, Chris wasn't that sadistic in those stories, which makes sense because as far as I know, at least for Infinite, I don't know about everything. The author actually told me he didn't really watch the show that much. So he doesn't really know Chris like gets more sadistic as the show goes on. Like he get like as each season goes on, he gets like more and more sadistic to the point I think in when he gets sent to jail in at the end of All Stars, he gets like because he like fracked and sunk the entire island. I'm trying to remember. I think he did end up in jail at the end of All Stars. Either that or it was either All Stars or at the or Packatu. I honestly can't remember which one it was, but I think he did get arrested at the end of All Stars. And so having the fact that this Chris is like sadistic, it's like, oh, here's another season. I'm super sadistic. Contrast with the other two stories where Chris is like he's uncaring, but at the end of the day, he's kind of like season 1 Chris, more or less. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And also explains why there's like actual total drama characters. Like this is the only total drama of these types of stories that actually has total drama characters as assistants. I know. Spoiler for Total Drama Everything 3. There are total drama characters gonna be in that story. But it's only because I think I begged the author. It's like, can you just throw in like Gwen or Duncan in there? If only because Kaiba shows up in Everything 3, and I was like, I just want to picture total drama Yukio. Well, that's time. Oh, I couldn't resist. Let's see. Amy also shows up from Total Drama. Amy and Sammy are from Packatu, I believe. Yeah, they're from Packatu. It's actually strange because I was like, Packatu is like the only season I actually never saw. I think every episode of the original Island, Action, World Tour, and Revenge of the Island. And I only saw like bits and pieces of All Stars because that was like when I was like, I just stopped giving a care about total drama, and then I completely did not see Packatu or Redonkulous Race. Yeah, you have Sammy with the total drama character. Amy actually had a reason for showing up a little later because she was actually supposed to compete, but since Sammy accidentally got her sick, she kind of had to join up later. And then a little bit later in the story, Lightning, Sanji from One Piece, and Alistair from Hazbin Hotel show up, and they join because Chris like ratings. But for the most part, there's only 3 characters worth talking about. The first one is Ryuko from Kill la Kill. You know, the main character with, I got my scissor blade! It's like, but what are you going to do? You're going to snip someone's hair out? So I'm going to stab him. It's like, that's just half the scissors. Like, I don't care! And Ryuko's like the one who takes the game super seriously. Like, everyone's like, this is just a competition. She's like, this is a life or death situation. And she's kind of like the main character of the side plot with Torika and Mumra and Cheering and all that. She's kind of like the main character of that specific side plot because she's the one who kind of gets wrapped up into everything. I do like her character arc where she starts getting angry, and then when she starts befriending Wendy from Gravity Falls, and Ryuko actually starts to calm down, and then Wendy gets eliminated, and she's like, "Oh no, it's on! It's on! I'm gonna kill you! I'm gonna kill you!" It's like, it's just a competition. I'm gonna kill you! You my friends! and tries to kill Aqua. It's like half the story is just her treating this a simple contest as like a life or death situation. Is like, what? Okay, fine. Kind of. It makes kind of sense why it would be a life or death situation because it's Chris and you kind of try to kill him in the story. But that beside the point. This is a good. It does have a good arc. She is kind of the main character of the story, so it makes sense why she would get the actual character development. She's fine. However, we gotta talk about the other two. Eddie. I like the fact. I'm sorry. This actually gets a giggle out of me because when I finish the story, it's like, oh, that's clever. So, spoilers. Eddie wins this in this story. I find it funny because everyone else kind of gets involved in like this, the big infighting, like all the infighting with Alistair and Starscream and Aqua and Lightning and even and all that. They just are all at heads throughout the entire story, and it's like, oh, we gotta eliminate this person. No, we gotta eliminate this person. We gotta be in the finals together, right? Yeah, we're gonna work together and all this stuff. And everyone's trying to like do all this kind of back talking, backstabbing stuff and like that, except for Eddie, who's really just there. And you see more juxtaposition because this story is actually like foreshadowed in the final chapter. I gotta find it. Where is it? Here it is. Here it is. This is actually foreshadowed in the final chapter that Eddie's gonna win, where Murderface confronts Eddie and the final challenge. That final challenge is just like you have three contestants. You have to do a job for them. Have fun. He's like, how did you make it this far? Like, how? May I ask? I don't know. I guess I'm just a good player. Good player, huh? Like, did you make any alliances or enemies or anything? And then Eddie just shrugs. It's like, when I read that moment, I literally had an epiphany. It's like, I brought my memory back through like all of the rest of the story, and I realized, wait a minute, Eddie didn't do any of that. Is he gonna win just by doing nothing? It's like he took one look, like everyone's infighting, and then Eddie's in the background, and he's holding a picture of his idol, his god, Luigi. It's like, teach me how to be skilled at doing nothing, a senpai. Eddie wins this story by doing absolutely nothing. Which honestly was so hilarious. I have to give the author credit for that. Because other than that, Eddie's like the weakest winner character wise. He's just Eddie. Like he doesn't really gain a character arc. He's really, which normally I would say that's bad, but in this context, it actually makes a lot of sense because the whole point of Eddie's character is he has to stay in the background because the whole point of the story is like everyone's fighting. And Eddie's like, everyone's just completely forgetting about Eddie throughout like most of the story. So he's like constantly like kind of squeezing through everything. And he does get like a little thing at the end where he befriends a Celebi. I'll talk about that later. And he does have a point he want to win. He just really wants to rub it in Kevin's face. It's like, knock knock. What do you want, dork? I want 9 million! Dork! Can I have some money? No. And it weirdly kind of works that Eddie doesn't really have a lot of character because his whole point was he was supposed to be like just a surprise pick. Like that's bravo to Jaw for that. Especially in comparison to like all the other winners, which honestly does make sense from a storytelling perspective. Like, you have Everything won, where Lammy won. However, the plot kind of needed her to win in order to set up a lot of the stuff in Everything too. So she needed to win. It's not so much that the story kind of really wanted her to win. It's just just how everything's set up in that sequel. She kind of needed to win in order to get that emotion. Everything 2 had Leo win, which I was fine with, if not for the fact that his victory was like so blatantly foreshadowed in advance. Like it wasn't even fortunate. It was just blatantly thrown in your face. It's like, oh yeah, he's gonna win. Like there, that it kind of let the air in the bag. With everything won, it was Wendy from Fairy Tail. I think Wendy was. Excuse me. I think Wendy was fine in that case. I think she definitely it made the most sense for her to win. She was the most developed character besides Katakuri, so I don't really have anything bad to say about Wendy. She's a more developed character than Eddie, and everything not everything too. Infinite 2 had Terry, and my only complaint about that is I think Miyu should have won, but the author did tell me that he kind of decided that on a coin flip, so I'm like, all right, fine. You decide. Okay, it was a coin flip. Fine, I'll deal with that. It's not even that Terry was a bad character. It's like I like Terry, but I love Miyu because Miyu. That's just my opinion. I just honestly think Miyu should have won, but I'm fine with Terry winning. I don't really have a problem with him winning. Just a preference sort of thing. But yeah. But then, you look at all those, and then you look at Eddie, it's like, Eddie doesn't really have much going for him. It's like, that's the point! That's the point! He's not supposed to do that! He's not supposed to have that because he's the whole point is he's supposed to just constantly be forgotten about. Where he just shows up every once or twice a chapter, like, hey, I'm here. I'm here. Well, everyone's like, rabble, 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 kick that person out, rabble, rabble, rabble. Like, we must kill the useless one. Rabble, 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 fear me, I'm a robot. Rabble, rabble. So it despite him not having a lot of next to no character, it makes a lot of sense. There's just so much to unpack with Eddie. But to go back to, because we have one more character to talk about, and that's Aqua. Aqua is pretty much the main antagonist of the story. And I also like to give Jaw credit for doing Aqua, I think, a very unique take on a villain character in a total drama story. At least I don't think I read this type of character before. So I gotta actually grab something real quick. Alright, so this is, at least bear with me, there is a point to this. She was a contestant on the 9th season of Hell's Kitchen. Yeah, I actually, okay. I wasn't sure if I actually pressed the play button. But like I said, bear with me, there's a point to this. Hell's Kitchen Season 9 is regarded as one of the worst, if not the worst season in Hell's Kitchen. I don't really know for sure because I only watched Hell's Kitchen up until season 11, and then I stopped watching it because I was so busy with other stuff that I couldn't really keep up with it anymore. But I know there's over 20 seasons, so there could be worse seasons that I just haven't seen. But from what I remember, this is the worst season, and at least had a big part to do with that. So why am I bringing a random Hell's Kitchen competitor and comparing them with Aqua? Because they both have the same character trope, that being a elimination Houdini. A elimination Houdini is a character trope. It's specific to reality shows. There are certain tropes that are exclusive to certain mediums. Elimination Houdinis are pretty much exclusive to reality shows. So what happens is if a reality show goes on long enough, the cast and crew, namely the director, will pick out certain people they feel can bump ratings. You see where I'm going with this? Usually those types of people aren't really good at the competition aspect. They're very rude, very unpleasant, like to fight, constantly make excuses, throws people under the bus, and tries to manipulate everything around them. Heather is kind of like that, but not really. But the reason I brought up Elise is she's actually the most blatant example that I know of. There's probably more blatant ones out there, but it's just Elise is the one I personally am most familiar with because I actually saw this in action. As far as I know, she had the most times to be on the elimination. Basically, how Hell's Kitchen worked at the end is like at the end of the dinner service, Gordon Ramsay picked a team to lose, and he asked someone, like, pick two people to you want to nominate to eliminate. Elise was on those two people to be eliminated 7 times. 7 times. That is a lot. Like that is a lot. However, Gordon Ramsay kept picking other people and at least kept surviving way farther than she really absolutely needed. Because guess what? Every other contestant hated her guts. She barely did anything in the challenges. Like whenever the losing team got a punishment, she didn't do a job. She was blamed everyone else. She wasn't that great a cook in the show. I don't know about real life, but in the show, she wasn't that great a cook. But she kept surviving. Why? Because she kept bringing in. She was someone who constantly fought with the other contestants. She always caused a lot of the heated. So that way, when they built up something for the next episode, they always focused on Elise and stuff like that. Because her fighting got more people talking. And when more people got talking, more people watched the show. And when more people watched the show, the team behind the show got more money. That's what I'm bringing up with Aqua. Where is she? Aqua. She's the main antagonist. She constantly... There's 2 teams. While on one team, with Starscream and Alistair, they were all fighting with each other. With the other team, with the exception of Eddie, everyone was basically just trying nonstop to kick Aqua off the show. Because she was basically doing a lot of stuff that Elise does. She didn't really do a lot of work. She was constantly argumentative. She constantly pissed everyone off for her lazy attitude. She constantly manipulated people. And so on and so forth. But she kept getting past elimination because at the last second, Chris would change the rules specifically to keep her in longer. Like, for example, it's like, oh, I forgot. This is out. It's like there was one challenge where like everyone voted for her except for Aqua voted for someone else, and Chris was like, before I do the elimination, I like to announce it's opposite day. So the person with the least amount of votes is getting eliminated, and like everyone's like completely like falls apart. It's like, why are you keeping her? Because Chris, ratings. Aqua brings drama. Drama brings ratings. Ratings brings money. So basically, Chris deliberately kept Aqua in as long as possible. It's like with the other team, it's like there's too many people on that side. They're just gonna be imploded, and I don't care about that. But Aqua, I can keep Aqua in as long as possible if I want to. Yeah. Nothing to do with the fact that she's going commando. Everything to do with the fact that she brings in the money. So it wasn't Ryuko and and Sammy and Tokuyami and all that going against Aqua. It was them going against Chris, manipulating things behind the scenes to keep Aqua in the story. In the show. In the story. So that's actually really genius. And I also love the fact of how she goes away, how she technically leaves like, aha, I made it to the finals on my own power with no one to help me. Being a hypocrite. It's like I don't need the prize anymore because the money's not going to be transferred into my currency. I quit. Alright. Oh, it is going to be transferred into currency. Like, where's the bar? Oh, yeah. But those are the 3 characters I honestly want to work talking about. There are some other characters, like there's Sammy, falling in love with Tokuyami, and then like becoming more independent of Amy, and like to the point where she like gets like a rocker look. Uh, there's Lindsay kind of wanting to try and be like a guidance counselor. Everyone's kind of like throwing her out because of that. It's like, no, we're bad guys. We gotta keep fighting. It's like, I want to help you. No, we gotta fight. Continue fighting. There's Alistair, who's really just there for the fun. He doesn't really care about the money. He's just like, I don't want to watch the world burn and everything. It makes a lot of sense. But those are the three main characters. Those are the characters that honestly I wanted to talk about. Grammar. You want to see the grammar? I want you. I'm gonna scroll. I'm simply gonna scroll this down. I want you to just read. See how many grammar errors you can spot. See how many you can spot. I am not a grammar Nazi. I understand like part of the game and part of the fun of fan fiction is the fact a lot of people don't particularly care about the grammar, because like these are not professional writers. They're just people having fun. And so, you're expecting grammar errors. And however, there's only a limit someone can take when it comes to bad grammar. This crosses the line. Like I don't know how one person can misspell course as in CORUSE and spell like course like Corsan like COARSE. Like how do you do that? How do you do that? Okay, fine, that one, because those are two real words. I can understand why he would mix up those words, because autocorrect probably didn't point it out to him. But seriously, there is no forgiving the amount of grammar errors in this story. It's quite frankly ridiculous. Just the scale of how many grammar errors are, especially in the first couple chapters. Like from here to, I'd say probably here, there are so many grammar errors. There's just so many. And I can't forgive that. Pacing. The pace is alright. There's basically two sides to the pacing. This story is more slower paced, like compared to Infinite and Everything One, just compared to those two. This one's more slower paced, which makes sense considering the fact the infighting is such a big aspect of the story. So you need to have a lot of time to properly do all the infighting and still kind of progress the story. So if you can't make it like super fast paced, because if you do, then you're kind of making the whole point of said infighting completely redundant. But you can't make it too slow, because then you're just going to keep focusing on the infighting and just drag it out to like unbearable levels. On the other hand, you have the original stuff. And this is something I didn't want to talk about until now, but there is the big side plot. I didn't read the Operation Fat, because I honestly think those are just padding and just didn't need anything. But all the secondary plot with Ryuko and all that stuff was very, very much slower paced, because the author is trying to do like all this world building and all these really cool ideas with like the Black Hole Gang and Gajira and Mumra and the Spear and all that. And I don't think it was bad. For the most part, it's just very, very slow paced, and I think kind of somewhat sinks this story. Somewhat. But I think the slow pace fits it. But yeah, there's a lot to talk about with that. But let me move on. Would I recommend the story? I can for I can forgive the side plots. I can forgive the author kind of randomly putting in all the author stuff, and I really don't like that either. I'll get to that when I get to fixing it. I don't. I can forgive the somewhat inconsistent story because with all the infighting, some of the characters kind of kind of flipped in and out. So a lot of the characters are inconsistent in the character. I can forgive the very incoherent fanfic mayhem chat because that was very incoherent. I can forgive a large part of the story just being just arguing and just throwing people out. I can forgive all the admittedly somewhat good ideas used in the original stuff with the Black Hole Gang and One Raw and everything. I can forgive all that. I cannot forgive the grammar. I just there's just so much I can handle in terms of bad grammar to the point where even I'm like, no, that is way too much, and I just can't. And it broke me. I can't recommend it because look at it from my point of view. If I wasn't suggested this story and it's like, oh, and I just want to read it casually, I read this story, I get to this chapter, and I see there's a mountain of grammar errors in like the first 2-3 chapters, official chapters, not the list things. I'm like, I'm not reading this. No, I'm just not reading because I can't understand it. And there's even times throughout the story where I had to read a sentence several times to try and figure out because the grammar errors were just so frequent that I had to actually like either add in words or course change in my mind to like constantly fix things as I'm reading it, which never happens, which kind of shows just how much there was in terms of grammar errors. And I can't forgive. This is just it's inexcusable. It broke me, and I am just that hurts so much. I just the grammar error. Like, I don't have anything more to say. I can't recommend this story. The grammar is just too much. Favorite part of the story. This chapter. Just this chapter. I guess you're gonna kind of extend it to the 3 Hangover chapters because they're actually really well done. I didn't want to say this until now about the original stuff, but I didn't really like the original stuff at first because it kind of just forcefully shoved itself in. But near the end, with the Hangover chapters and the Alchemist chapter, I was like, okay, that's actually not bad ideas. Oh, good show. And then you get the Hangovers, which is them trying to get to Washington State for the final challenge. And while Ryuko / Armin's and Aqua's chapters are like super serious affairs, Eddie's is just a complete other goofball, which kind of hammers in the point that he's like the odd one out. So they get like the super serious stuff, and he gets like the kind of like the airplane-esque adventure. Basically, he wakes up after partying with Beetlejuice. Don't ask. And he befriends a Celebi. How? I don't know. And he basically just goes into a cab. It's like, hey, I'm going to help you out with a selfie. He takes him to a plane. They get hunted by like two space mafia members who just want to like, what are we going to do, Mr. Joko? Well, we're going to capture him. And that's Celebi too. They run into Jine, Mako, Mickey, and then one of the characters from Total Drama Endless. And they go on a space plane. And then everything just kind of weirdly becomes like just a massive like Liam Nielsen parody where like Draco Mihawk is there. He's just sitting in his chair most of the time. I bet you that thing crashed on the planet. It it'll just splinter open, and Mihawk would just be sitting there, just looking at a comic book. Like, why is Perona in Playboy? Wait, why am I reading Playboy? It is constantly shifting from them, like all the shenanigans they're getting into, to like an air traffic controller sort of deal, where instead of like an actual air traffic tower, they're in like a guy's mother's basement, and they have like Adam West esque Adam West esque boss. And then they have like the super serious guy named Rex, who designed the plane because it starts malfunctioning, and he brings the Green Lanterns. He's like, all right, we're gonna help. It's like, no, you cannot. Why? Because we painted the spaceship yellow. That sounds stupid. Of course it is, but I wasn't thinking right. I was on methamphetamines. That don't make no sense. Yes, it does. Somewhat. But honestly, it was because I didn't like the shade of yellow, and we painted silver over it, but it's like, everything is like black. And it's such a goofy thing, because you have Eddie kind of like freaking out half the time, and Celebi's like kind of like patting his back, like, Celebi. Yeah, Draco Mihawk just being like the stoic guy's like, eh. You have a fucking Jake Paul knockoff just going like, oh my god, there's a robbery going on. Make sure to subscribe. I'm gonna get killed. And Yuri and switching to the air traffic controllers, and like the steward like constantly like melting. It's like, I'm fine. It's so ridiculously over the top. But I just like at the end it's like, I gotta admit, that's actually pretty fun. And of course, the whole thing ends with like Mihawk just standing there stoically, like, Don't mind me. I want to see this Sanji person. And it's so over the top, goofy. I can't help but love it. Now we get to the final part. What would I change? Normally, when it comes to wanting to fix things, this is a hypothetical sort of thing. So I don't actually try to encourage the author to change anything, but I have to make an exception. Please, I beg you, please fix the grammar. Please, I don't care. You can ignore everything else I say after this, but please, for the love of God, fix the grammar. It was too much. Now there is other stuff that I would want to change. The main thing is I would want to get rid of the Operation Fat. It really offers literally nothing to the story. It's just padding for the sake of padding. It's blatant padding. I don't like it. Another thing I would change is the fanfic mayhem, because as I said with Mean King's story, having fanfiction cross over with other fanfiction is a really, really bad idea. Why? Because you have the very, very likely chance of coming across a story that you want to read, and then turning out the story doesn't exist anymore. Oh, hello, never say from Waluigi. Like that. Because, it's almost like having a story that sets place in another story, and then that story goes, kind of ruins it. Now, like I said with in Infinite 2, if it's more than like a simple gag, if it doesn't really impact the story that much, then I'm okay with it. Like in the story, Cruz is the one where Chris throws like all the garbage in like other universes. I'm fine with that. The Warner Brothers, Wacko Yakko and Dot is like being brought to the cruise ship as revenge for all the pranks done in Infinite. No, not everything. Not Infinite. I think it was. No, it was Everything as revenge, and then just playing like a little goofy Looney Tunes-esque side plot for that chapter that they do it in, that's fine. This is not fine because guess what? This story doesn't exist anymore. So now, if I want to go and find out about the story, I can't because now it just doesn't exist anymore, and now there's like no point for this. Like even the authors themselves kind of show up at one point. I think it was this one. No, it was one of these. I think it was Welcome to the Jungle. They kind of, the authors kind of show up and in the story. That's fine. Like even I didn't have a problem when in Infinite One where Spinel actually did the spray painting thing on the cruise ship. That's fine because that doesn't impact the story. That's just a gag. That doesn't have any substantial impact on not only the story at then, but the story overall. It's just a quick little gag, just kind of like giving a shout out to a friend, because I know for a fact that all these people are more likely friends. Because I know for a fact, thanks to one of my subscribers who's actually an author for one of these stories, that him, Jaw, and Mean King, they're all kind of like together, and they all kind of have like this own separate community, separate from the traditional total drama fans. So they're like their own separate thing. And I can respect that. You want to honor your friends. However, I have to maintain a sense of fairness, and just having their actual stories come up is just a big risk. And guess what? Unlike Infinite, we only had like 3 stories. It had Everything, Cruise, and Endless. This story had like much more, and I didn't even go through all of them. I just know for a fact that the Never Safe from Waluigi like is gone. So that kind of like destroys the purpose of that. If you want to keep the author in as like a quick cameo, fine, go ahead. But having them end up in his story, no, it doesn't. It just doesn't work. It falls apart. The last thing I would want to change is the whole part about the side plot with Ryuko. I think if you really want to push that envelope, I think it should just be separate. All that should be separate and be its own story instead of being a total drama. Because I think all that has the potential to be really good if it wasn't attached to a total drama story. And you even have the main characters in Ryuko and Brendan. Like you can just make this a Kill la Kill, Secret of Kells crossover fic. Like Brendan shows up at the Kill la Kill world. Ryuko befriends him, wants to take him home. They realize they have to cross these. They come across like these dimensional boundaries. They run into Nomura. They run into Mumra, Gajir, and all that. They meet the Black Hole Gang. They meet all this, and you just give us this big old world, like this world between worlds, and just go hog wild with that. I think that would be the best way. So that way you can still keep the whole the other versions using like Nomura and Gajira and all that. And if you want to use them, you can use them in the sequel. But I think with all the conflict, with all the contestants and everything, and all the backstabbing, all the alliance making, it kind of comes off as like, oh, this is we're just adding in more for the sake of adding in more. So I honestly think just make this, just take all this side stuff out and just make it its own story. Granted, you would have to take Ryuko and Brendan out of Cruise, but you can literally replace them with literally anyone. It doesn't really matter, because Ryuko and Brendan kind of were the reasons why this side plot kind of worked, because Ryuko's character kind of worked with it as well. So you can easily just do something with that. Also, I would like I would like a spin-off with like Eddie taking Celebi home to the cul-de-sac, and then him just teaching Celebi how to be scam artists. It's like, that'd just be hilarious. Like, all right, get out a notebook. Celebi. Like, first rule of scamming. It's like, it's just, and then the story kind of has a climax where they try to scam Mihawk, and Mihawk's like, Like you can do like a little, like just a hilarious gag. Like have Eddie invite everyone that he kind of befriended in like the airplane thing and the friends he included on the show, and he's just having a little fun. And he's just scamming them, and like and the whole point is like he tries to prove that his scams can work. If he can scam Mihawk, he can scam anyone. And Mihawk's like, no. It's just, and Celebi's like helping him. It's like, I want to see more of Eddie and Celebi. I know it's weird, but it's like that's just a weird combination that I just want to see more of. But yeah, that's my review of Total Drama Cruise. There are some stuff I like for it, but by and large, this was just mentally exhausting because of the grammar errors. I will see you next time. This has been Dark Symphony 777, and cut.